Hello, this is Sergio Marrero, and today we're here with another episode of RBL1 Live. We have a special guest today, Betsy Ziegler, that is CEO of 1871. Thanks for joining us, Betsy.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry if you guys saw me sort of turning to the side there, yelling at my 8-year-old to turn his iPad down. So appreciate being on the show today. Thank you.
No, excited to have you, and we know life happens, but it's amazing. We can. That's what Zoom does. We can steal you from wherever you are for a little bit, and help share your
absolutely.
Yeah, share your story with others. But to give a quick intro for those that are just tuning in, to share a little bit more about Betsy's background. She's a graduate of Ohio State University, also Harvard Business School, fellow alumni. She has had an extensive career with McKinsey & Company, and also served as the Associate Dean of the MBA program and Chief Innovation Officer of the Kellogg School of Business Management before joining 1871 as CEO. So excited to dive in today. If you could share with the audience, what is 1871?
Yeah, thank you very much. And the most important part about that introduction, by the way, of me is my Ohio State background. So if there's any Buckeyes out there, we do the OH. There's probably some Michigan folks, but we'll do it. I'll throw out a Go Blue for them just for good measure, even though it pains me to do so. 1871 is an innovation hub based in Chicago, and we serve companies across the full maturity curve. Most people think of us. Yep, there you go. There's our website. Most people think of us as the home for startups, which is absolutely a key role to play, digital startups, that is. But we also serve growth stage companies and corporate innovators. So whether you are a person that has an idea, whether you are a company that has 50 people that is growing at 200% a year, or whether you are a Fortune 50, there's an opportunity to engage with us across that full curve, and so it's an exciting place to be. We have about 400 founders, early stage founders, somewhere in the problem statement to product market fit range, working with us right now. Another roughly 300 growth stage companies and about 60 corporates. We are a nonprofit and we don't have a fund, so I know that there's a lot of folks listening in that might be aspiring, either current or aspiring investors. We do not have a fund, but we've got a lot of potential deal flow for you.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember visiting the space. This is pre-COVID, and definitely amazed by the community that was brought together. The Techstars in there, Math Ventures, and a slew of others in the mix. If you can share with the audience,
I guess we might be the only. Sorry, really quick. I think we might be the only place only nonprofit, at least in the country, that has under the same roof corporate innovation center, like teams based there, startups, venture capitalists, universities have offices there. Like everyone is under one roof. It's a relatively large roof inside of a massive building in Chicago, but it's at least pre-COVID, it was a one-stop shop physically in presence. And I know we'll talk more about what happened, what's happened since COVID, but in terms of our model.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember moving to Chicago and 1871 being a very homey place for founders, a great destination and place to go. Would love for you to share. I mean, I think the obvious thing is with the pandemic happened, I would love you to share what 1871 turned into, and hopefully with the more easing of the with more vaccinations in sight, maybe more in person gatherings coming back. But I'll let you share a little bit about what happened and where you guys going.
Sure. So I think, like with most organizations, everything was in person. The team was there 5 days a week. The flexibility came in the form of using vacation days or being able to work from home if you had a furniture delivery or a maintenance person, right? Very, very typical. Everything we did was like this. I will say for the record that in July of 2019, I told my board that by July of 2020, we would have a way to virtually engage in a virtual membership. That was not prescient. I did not know anything was happening, at the level of a global health crisis. But so my team had started to put the foundations in place. And so when on March 13th, 2020, the same date that most of us, left our things in place and went home, most of us who have the opportunity to have jobs that that we can do from home, of course, not, unfortunately, this hasn't hit everyone equally in that regard, but those that we went home, we switched to virtual, and we did that in a really, really very successful way. And so everything went to virtual to the point where some people love working virtually, both the founders and the growth stage companies and the corporates that we interact with, as well as members of my team. And so I think I'll talk about some of the tailwinds we have, which are really exciting, but as we think about reentry, like many of you are thinking about reentry, we are not going to be one mode anymore. So we were all in person, then we were all virtual, and going back, we're going to be both. And that's, we've never done both at the same time. And so that's going to be a learning curve for us. And for me, certainly, how do I lead a team where we might be 3 days in, 2 days out, but people are on different rhythms. We might have people that are sitting in front of us physically, and then people coming in from screens. It'll be a learning curve for us that's really important. And the reason that matters is because one of the major tailwinds we have is other locations like ours, or entrepreneurs or growth stage leaders who don't have connection in whatever geography they're in, are looking for community, and they want to be connected to us. So we're in active conversations all over the state of Illinois and all over the country, and with 12 other global cities, about how do we connect. So we have 1871 The Place in Chicago, but we are also 1871 The Experience. And how do we create that experience? How do we continue to expand and augment that experience to reach as many people around the globe as possible? My job and my team's job every day is to increase the probability of success for anyone that we're working with, and to shorten the time frame for them to do that. I don't care where they are. Right now, we've got founders in Nigeria, in Denmark, in Venezuela, in Washington, D.C., in Texas, like engaging with us, right? My hope for is that we can do that at a much grander scale and really advance the world forward.
Amazing. And in those early days when the physical space was shut down and things went digital, was there anything that particularly surprised you about the entrepreneur community were there during that time?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that if I have to go through something like this again, this is the group of people that I want to do with it, because being surrounded by entrepreneurs, builders, innovators, people who look at constraints and turn them into creative opportunities, right? Who wake up in the morning and think about what can we become versus how bad can it get, right? These are my people. These are the people that bring me joy and bring me energy, and so I've been grateful every day about to be in the position to be surrounded by these folks, no matter how hard it's been for anybody, right? The kind of the resilience, the moving forward. And I think for me, so I don't know if I was surprised by that, but I'm certainly appreciative and grateful for that. And I'm reminded about it all the time, because every day I'm meeting somebody new that re-inspires me on that dimension. And I think as a leader, what's been helpful through this process is, and it's I've told my team, and I've been quite public about this on LinkedIn and other channels as well, that this has been the most rewarding and the most challenging year of my professional life. And I've been working for a long time. I think I'm in year 28 or something of which is hard to say out loud, but I think I'm in year 28 of my professional career. But this notion of having one foot steeped in reality, like I get it, I know where we are, I get the reality, and one foot steeped in the future and where we're headed, I think has kept my own self balanced and my brain balanced and my team balanced, and hopefully the community balanced and looking forward.
Amazing. On that note, would love for you to share a little bit more about your experience. That I know you spent, over 12 years as a principal at McKinsey and Company, and then decided to shift gears. If you could share a little bit more about your career path into to being CEO of 1871.
Sure, and I give hour-long leadership talks about my 5 life mottos and my twisty, curvy career path. I will not do that for you today. I'll give you the very abridged version, which is a decade ago, I was a life insurance partner at McKinsey, leading the operations and technology practice for life insurance. And you can imagine if you just saw that on paper, life insurance partner, and now, CEO of world leading innovation hub. At least on paper, I'm way cooler now than I was just a decade ago. And then in between that, having this amazing opportunity at Northwestern, where, as you noted earlier in my bio, I'm not an alum. And so the short story is economic crisis hit. Two things happened at that point in time. One thing the first thing was that I was feeling stuck. I was feeling like I was in this little box, and all I could talk about was something around the economic crisis, something about call centers, because I happen to be an expert at the firm in call centers, and something about the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I was feeling like I was becoming this uninteresting person. So I was 37 at the time. I wrote down the 40 things I wanted to do by the time I was 40. And that act of writing that list down over a 20-minute period completely changed the orientation of how I viewed ownership of my life. Okay, so that happened. My client went away because life insurance got hammered in the economic crisis and they needed to take a break from us. And so I filled my plate with all things social sector while still a partner at the firm. And that idea that I could port my skills and apply it to different situations brought me more joy than I had anticipated. And that led me to make the decision to leave McKinsey. I bought an around the world plane ticket. I left and cruised the globe for several months by myself, thought about a whole bunch of things, came back, said I want to be a leader in the social sector with a preference for higher ed. Nobody in higher ed wanted me. The banks and the insurance companies wanted me at that point in time, turned down a big offer, read about the brand new dean at the Kellogg School in the paper, sent her a cold call, what I call a cold call email. She invited me to lunch. I started working for her as a consultant, and then rolled into that job. This is it's not super short, but it's really is the abridged version. And then
I was going to say, you could don't be hesitant to share some of the. I think that's one of the things.
I mean, I'm sharing, I guess, kind of the highlights. Got that job. Ran everything that happened outside the classroom, all the degree programs, and was the dean of students for about 4 years. So Kellogg classes 2012 through 2016 were if any of the alums are out there listening, they refer to me as Dean Z. And then the dean and I created a new role called Chief Innovation Officer that we designed and redesigned every day. And just really, is it this? Is it that? What do you think about this? And I did that for a couple of years until I was recruited away to be the CEO of 1871. And I'm the third. 1871 is 9 years old. We turned 9 last Sunday, and I'm the third CEO. And it's been an amazing journey. And I will say that every single day of my life at 1871, my professional approach to things at 1871 builds on both my McKinsey experience and my Kellogg Northwestern experience. Like literally every day I'm pulling from things that I've seen or done, or trying to go back to touch points from my past. And so one of my life mottos is your life story is a summary of the choices that you make. And the best part about that is you can always make a different choice. But I encourage people, particularly those of you listening that are aspiring to build something on your own, or aspiring to be an investor, or you already are in those roles, but you're continuing to build, is that every new experience you have, every opportunity you have to make a choice and decision for yourself is moving you closer to being the leader that you were destined to become. And so my underlying encouragement is to own your life and act with intent, because if you don't, if I didn't, I'd still probably be at McKinsey, which, by the way, perfectly good choice, no problem, but not what I think I was put on the planet to do.
Amazing. And sounds like, I know there were probably some things that what is it? You covered the highlights, and there might have been some challenges along the way. Are there any
many.
Yeah,
many challenges.
So if you could share a little bit of that as you were, kind of like you had, it sounds like at McKinsey you had that epiphany and making that shift, and Kellogg School of Management kind of, being that place you were able to do that. If you want to share what helped, what were some of the challenges in that, and what helped you get through it?
Well, so there are challenges that we all face every day, and then there are moments where there's sort of challenges that happen in your own career, and then there's mistakes that you make and how you think about responding to those mistakes. I think challenges come at us constantly. We're and how you take that information in and process it and push it back out and do something with, you're constantly doing. And having been and I'll tell you a mistake I made in just a minute, but I'm pretty good at pattern recognition, because again, I've been working for a long time, and at McKinsey, a lot of what you learn how to do is break problems down into smaller pieces, and like you just become this expert problem solver. So I feel pretty good about my skill set of being able to take all kinds of disparate informations in connect dots, put things together, decide that this part is important and this part isn't, and move forward and kind of overcome challenges. And if you view the world with glass half full, it can get you through, quite a bit. I think on like the mistake front, or in the spirit where you're feeling like you don't really know what you're supposed to be doing, and you're spinning, and you're afraid to ask, right? Which I've been in many times, and my guess is that if the people listening are honest with themselves, they would say they have been too, and that yes, it's true, they have made a mistake. And it is surprising when I ask audiences, when I give talks about how many people have made a mistake, half the room raises your hand, and you're like, okay, really? Like, the other half of you have lived, like, literally, you've made no mistakes. My view on very quickly on mistakes and is that people, so another life motto, people will remember your response to the bounce, not the bounce. So people don't remember your mistake. They remember how you responded to it. They remember this what you learned from it, right? I lead an innovation hub. I need my team to be doing productive experimentation. If you're doing productive experimentation, it means you're going to do a lot of things that don't work, right? We at Northwestern, we started a best failure forum to try to give people, to use my friend Amy Edmondson's term, psychological safety in trying things, right? And like giving them space to try things and rewarding them for the trial rather than the outcome. And I wish people would embrace that idea more, because I think people get afraid, right? There's nobody on the planet that wants to make that like wakes up in the morning saying, I'm ready to go, I want to go fail. You know, that's not a thing. But if we can get more people and more systems and structures and incentive structures and leadership styles and everything to surround people with this idea that we want you to try a lot of things, and you're going to learn a lot from that. And your goal, your job is to learn as much as you can, and reward that. Then people will feel like they can say, I don't know. And then people will feel like they can ask for help. Both of which, by the way, I reward as a strength. I think it's a strength for people to be able to do that, but it happens very, very rarely. If people are interested in like major mistakes I've made, we can dive into it, you know, either today or you can email me or tweet me, and I'm happy to share.
Amazing. What was it in looking at, well, one thing I would ask, you know, in your path, the shift particularly from Chief Innovation Officer, it seems like Chief Innovation Officer to CEO of 1871 seems actually like that makes a lot of sense. What was the shift from Associate Dean of Programs to Chief Innovation Officer? What inspired that shift?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. I think the first thing is that I'm not a maintainer kind of a gal. I'm not a person that goes into a job and runs the status quo. Like that's not, and status quo is probably not fair about the situation. But the first job I took at Northwestern was the first time that job had ever existed in that format, meaning with the different things reporting to it and the different scope of influence. And my job was to come in and put those things together and drive change and get the team and the organization performing at a different level, in partnership, of course, with the dean, my boss, and my peers and the faculty and the students, et cetera. So, but that job was never going to be my job for a career. So I did that for the first 4, got it to a new place. And then it was time to bring somebody else in to bring them in to continue to make it better. Like nothing stays in place, right? But to continue to make it better, but to be excited about leading that team for a really long time and making it better, but maybe not driving like enormous change. And the Chief Innovation Officer role, again, as I mentioned, we made up, and it was a combination of what we thought strategically was important for the school. And at that time, that role wasn't really very common in higher ed. I don't think it was a role that existed at any other business school that wasn't about teaching students innovation and entrepreneurship, which was not my job. My job was to make sure the school was prepared from a innovation perspective and a technology perspective to weather future storms, which of course the school has just gone through. And I was lucky enough to work for a tremendously ambitious and inspiring person who was could see the future in a way that I also agreed with, and helped create that opportunity for me. Well,
Amazing.
Not helped, she designed that opportunity. Yeah.
That's great. I have to ask, because of my background in innovation and education, I know that you focused on education as part of your social sector focus at McKinsey, and then again as a Chief Innovation Officer. Where and now that you don't have to wear that hat and you could speak speak on your own, where do you see higher education going? There's a challenge, right? And the challenge, right? That what is it? The total debt owed in higher education surpassed credit card debt. We talk about it being a burden on the next generation, and but now there's this mix between in person and online, and it may be relatively cheaper. Like, in your eyes, what are some of the things we need to do to get not only higher education into a more amazing place, but also it seems like a service to our country and our world to do so. So I'm kind of teeing that up on what things do you think we can do in that regard?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts here. So you're going to regret asking the question, Sergio. The first thing I would say is that the world is more complex than it's ever been before. So we all need more education, not less, no matter where you're getting it from. So my argument is always going to be about getting more education. I could care less about people I don't care if people are pursuing degrees. I care that people are continuing to invest in learning. I'll come back to the degree point in a second. The second is that no matter what, continuing to get degrees is a roadmap for more financial success and income acceleration. So that data is indisputable. There are a lot of people left out of the system, right? Only I think it's 1/3 of American adults have a degree. So 2/3 do not, and a whole bunch of them have started but haven't finished, right? So there's a whole I was lucky enough to go to a 4-year college and graduate in 4 years and then go to business school, and my parents funded my undergrad and I paid for my business school. And if you're not aware, you might think that that's how most of the world participates in the education system, but or most of the country participates in the education system. But that is just factually untrue. Most of the problem solving has been on that group. The real opportunity is to get these, particularly right now. I mean, when we started 2020, I thought the greatest management challenge of our time was going to be the upskilling required given the rise of technology and the impact of automation and artificial intelligence. I'm not a person that believes that jobs will go away. I mean, for 200 years, people have been saying jobs are going to go away, and they might, but they're replaced by new jobs. So I'm not a doomsdayer on the jobs go away and there aren't any jobs, but I am very pro, like, this is everybody needs to continue to engage in learning all the way through, because jobs keep changing and skills keep changing. You have to keep going up. So pre-COVID, I thought that was going to be the management challenge all the time. Now we're in a situation where 2/3 of American adults don't have a degree. We have a K-shaped return of the recovery, K-shaped recovery, where the top of the K, people are as well off, if not better off than they were before COVID. And the bottom part of the K, where it's going to take decades to recover. And those are the people that we need back to get back to work, that we need to get extra training to. And again, I don't care if they actually get a degree. We need to get them education. We need to get them an education that serves as an income accelerant. And there's a lot of debate about, is school to get a job or is school for learning? And I'm not going to get in that debate right now. And I'm not surrounded by a bunch of tenure line faculty. I get that, so I can speak differently than if I was perhaps in a room of tenure line faculty. But learning is social. Learning is important. People need an outcome, and I feel like, and I know I'm sort of talking circularly here, but I feel like most of the higher ed institutions, even now, even after this year they've gone through, if you watch what they're doing, they're expending a whole bunch of energy and a whole bunch of time trying to resist change from happening. And so literally, if I had a magic wand, I'd blow the whole thing up and completely reimagine it with the focus on supporting as many people as possible. I mean, even just name whatever elite school you want, where they're out in the market celebrating, Princeton celebrating 3.5% or 3.9% selectivity rate, or whatever they are. And apologies if I get the number wrong, but it's somewhere in that, it's directionally correct. Okay, you're celebrating that you're taking this many people when this many people are qualified to get into your school, but you have fixed constraints because of the number of physical seats you have. But this last year has taught us that you can educate and train people in their bimodal, back to the beginning of this conversation. So why, and then I'm sorry, you put me on a soapbox, and then you've got the rankings that drive decision making. So US News says we're gonna reward, the lower the selectivity number you have, the better, and we're gonna give you more points for that. And at the business school level, we're gonna reward you for GMAT, and we're gonna reward you for these things that have nothing to do with the quality of the education, the quality of the experience, and the quality of the outcome that student has. And that is a challenge. And so at a minimum, we should be rewarding how many people you did, like, why aren't we rewarding schools for the size of the impact that they're having, which is part of why I love Michael Crow and what he's done at Arizona State. And there are a lot of examples, but Michael is certainly I'm speaking his name as if he and I are friends. We don't know each other, but this, like, he's do what he did, just do that over and over again. And like you put me here on a Thursday afternoon, Sergio, that so you're the reason for the meander and the lack of structure here, and like the throwing out 17 ideas.
It's an important topic. No, and I had to ask. I'm glad you I'm glad I got you after you left higher education, so you could speak a little bit more freely. But also to get that you know, I'm just you may not know, I did a TEDx talk called "The Degree is Dead," and I talked about, like, you know, like the endless learning, right? It's like not the end of learning, but it's a luxury product for few. So how do we create more sustainable systems for more people? So I think no, I'm glad to hear that from you. And you know, and interestingly enough, even the organization you're leading now, that's what it's about, right? Coming together and building. They're learning something. It's different, not degree focused, but outcomes focused.
No, but
yeah,
our
definitely.
job is access, and importantly, our job is access and connecting in every neighborhood in Chicago and connecting across the state. And you know, entrepreneurial talent and aspiration is not it is equally distributed. That is a fact. But confidence and financial resource and opportunity to quality programming and access to, you know, mentors, et cetera, is not, right? So organizations like 1871, in partnership with things that are happening in the local neighborhood, are real, in my opinion, fundamental to the economic recovery of Chicago. All of the job growth is going to come from small companies, just like they have for the last many decades. Got it.
And for you all, I know you talked about you're creating more of a home for digital startups. Can you talk about, you know, your focus, if any, on kind of the small business growth and the small medium business segment, or maybe family business, and how can they take advantage of 1871?
Yeah, so most of our the vast majority of our history has been focused on tech startups. There are other organizations in Chicago. One's called Matter, that's focused on life science startups, and one that's called M-Hub, that's focused on the built world, physical products, IoT, right? We're partners with both of them. They're both amazing.
Matter's right next door to you, so it's great.
Matter is right next door to us. We share a wall, and MHub is less than a mile away. So we're all kind of in that same world. In COVID, we launched an initiative called the Small Business Initiative, which is focused on non-tech businesses, businesses that you don't expect to scale, particularly in Black and brown neighborhoods, and equipping those businesses with mentors and tools that help them digitize, right? So how can I leverage technology to automate my back end, to communicate with my customers, to promote awareness, to whatever it is. And so we're pairing up those small business owners with either entrepreneurs or people that work in tech companies for free to help them get to where they need to go. The challenge we have is that some of that costs money, meaning somebody might say, look, you need to do XYZ, and that might cost $1,500. And so we don't have the $1,500 to give them. So we're applying for grants and doing all kinds of things to see if we could sub-grant out to those organizations so that they can actually go do the work that's been recommended to them. So it's going to take a while for us to scale the impact, but we do think that that's really important. And it's one of the areas that 1871 can play a big role. And MHub and Matter are our partners in that as well, focused on their, the community health center or the community, manufacturer.
Amazing. Yep. I've been to both the three. I would say that the three of you are just amazing places to bring the community together. But I know we're just at time. I wanted to thank you, Betsy, for sharing your story. So
Sure.
For those that are tuning in and watching, this was Betsy Ziegler. That is the CEO of 1871, based in Chicago. Again, this is Rebel One Live. If you're looking for how to get connected to 1871, the link is in the live stream notes, 1871.com. And thanks again, and have a good night. Thanks again, Betsy.
Thanks, everybody.